I'll do it. Welcome, everyone. I'm Shelley Darling, and I'm here in Topsom, Maine, on the border of Brunswick, at the lower end of the Androscoggin River, which is called the Penobscot River, and invite you as you open to today's 4th episode with voices, thinking of the voices of the river, with our beautiful Malini Rajendran, who is opening the way for the origin stories of the rivers and lakes around the world. And this is an incredible opportunity to discover, as Malini was just talking to us, really this unique, incredible system, circulatory system of the earth, and how it all connects, and the phenomenal stories, especially right now we're in India, and the stories are quite extraordinary. And so welcome everyone. If you're on Facebook Live, you can join us in the Zoom room by going to Connection Field Digest. We're here every Friday, and all during the week there's incredible offerings that you can join with us, and you're in the Connection water field today. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Malini to take us on a river story today.
Thank you, Shelley, and good day, everyone, and welcome to the Connection Waterfield. And today's story is the story of the River Ganga. This is episode 4. So today is episode 4 and the story of the Ganga. Holiest among the holy, purest among the pure, she descends to the earth from the sky for the salvation of all humanity. She who is the river flowing in the heavens, energizing all of creation in the cosmos, she descends to earth out of compassion. Goddess of forgiveness and purification, the mother of humanity, personification of Devi Ganga. She rides a crocodile. Her weapon is the kalash, a pot. Her divinity is immediate and everlasting. She is a powerful goddess to be revered, respected, honored, and protected. There is magic in her water. Scientists have now found that her water is what you would call structured water, vibrating with the divine cosmic code. Her holy waters solves all our problems and takes us towards moksha, ascension. And one of her names is Mokshadayini, that she who gives us liberation. Racing along the course of around 40 kilometers per hour or more, I want you to listen to the sound of her emergence as she emerges from the source called Gomukh.
Fares like never before. Ticket prices starting at 1199. Also get rupees 500 at
That is the power of her attraction. People come to her risking their lives just to fill up a canister of water. And at this point, you will find that in spite of the fact that her water is gushing and rushing at full speed, people, thousands of people, still bathe in her waters every day. Along her entire length of 1,680 miles, you will find thousands of people taking a dip in her holy waters. Why do they do this? This is the story of the sacred river Ganga. She is a river system, and as you can see, she is long and she has many tributaries, and it is her tributaries that make her the powerful river that she is. And every one of those tributaries is called by its own name, followed by the word Ganga. So what is the legend of Ganga? The king Sagar, who was the descendant of the sun god, performed an Ashwamedha Yagya. This is a yagya or a sacred ritual where a ceremonial horse is released by a king. And that horse is allowed to run free and wild through all the countries. All the lands that the horse runs through, the kings and the owners of that land hand over their ownership and allegiance to the owner of the horse. And should that horse be trapped, then it is a call to the king who owns the horse, who sends the horse out for war, to claim the horse back or to claim the land. The legend says that when the king sends his horse out, King Sagar sent his 60,000 kin, but they never returned. And then he calls his grandson Anshuman and he tells his grandson, go and find the horse and find the kinsmen. Where have they gone? Anshuman goes hunting for the horse, and finally he reaches the hermitage, the hidden hermitage of sage Kapila. And when he meets sage Kapila tells him exactly what happened. Indra, the king of all the gods, got worried. Indra is always a person who gets very nervous and worried when any other being in the universe starts acquiring power and strength. And King Sagara had said he would do 100 Ashwamedha Yagyas, which would give him unlimited energy and power. So to prevent King Sagara from becoming this powerful entity, Indra steals the horse and ties it behind the hidden hermitage of sage Kapila. Sage Kapila lived in a dimension that was hidden, and his sons and the sons of Sagara, the 60,000 kinmen, somehow found their way through this dimension, and they found the hermitage of this great sage Kapila. And there they saw the horse tied to the tree. The sage was in a deep meditation, but they didn't bother. All they did was call the sage names and called him a thief and told him he had no business to have taken this horse. The sage in deep meditation opens his eyes, and with his anger, he burns all the 60,000 kin of King Sagara into ashes, because the kingsmen had insulted him. So when Anshuman reaches Kapila's hermitage, Kapila tells him this, and then he begs for forgiveness, and he says, how can my kinsmen be saved and revived? So Kapila says, your kinsmen cannot be brought back to life because I have used cosmic power, fire, to turn them into ashes. But what can be done is their last rites were never performed. They were never allowed to ascend to the other realm after their death. So if you want them to go and be absolved, reach moksha and go to the other realm, you have to get the waters of the Ganga. And the moment the waters of the Ganga wash over the ashes, they will be liberated and their sins will be washed away. So Anshuman tries for many years through penance, but he is not successful. It is finally left to his grandson Bhagirath, who does penance for many, many years and finally requests that Ganga come down to earth. The painting that you see is a very famous painting by India's artist king, Raja Ravi Verma. In fact, most of his paintings are all depicting mythological stories, and this is one of them. So Ganga agrees to come down on earth, but she says, I am so powerful and fast. The moment I hit the earth will get destroyed by the force of my waters. And I will not stay on the earth. I will go directly underground into the netherworlds. So then Shiva says, okay, you land on my head and I will have the energy to withstand the force of your descent and power. And I will take you down gently onto the earth. But Ganga is full of pride. And in her mind, she thinks, oh, this is a lovely opportunity to entrap Shiva and take him and trap him and keep him in the netherworlds. But Shiva knows her intention. He is, after all, the all-knowing of all the three realms and all the three dimensions and all the three forms of energy. He waits, and the moment she comes and touches his head, he opens his locks and traps her within them. And she stays trapped. She tries her level best to free herself from his locks, but she stays trapped for many years. And Bhagirath is again desolate. He says, when will I get the waters down to the ashes of my ancestors and relieve them and complete their last rites that they may ascend to the heavens? So he again conducts many years of penance and austerity, and he begs Shiva, says, please, please release her because my ancestors have to be released. So taking pity on her, Shiva opens his hair locks and allows her to gently flow. She flows out as 7 small separate streams. 3 of them flowed west and east, and the 7th stream flows as the Bhagirathi. She is called Bhagirathi because Ganga arrives back on this earth at the request of King Bhagirath. So Bhagirath is full of happiness and joy. And he tells her, come, follow me. But there is no Ganga without all her tributaries. Every one of her tributaries is known by its own name, and that name is then suffixed with the word Ganga. Here are the 7 points where, from the locks of Shiva in the Gangotri glacier, as he is sitting on the mountains, that the rivers flow out. This is the Gangotri, which comes out of Gomukh, and that was the video you saw of that young man risking his life to just get a canister of pure holy Ganga water straight from the mouth from where she emerges. And then these are the seven rivers that emanate from the Ganga, from Shiva's hair locks. Because of Bhagirathi's penance, she comes down to earth and is released from his matted locks. She happily follows him wherever he asks her to flow. And there starts her journey, flowing right down to the very end till she meets the ashes of King Bhagirath's ancestors. And that is why she is called Bhagirathi. The vehicle she travels on is a crocodile, and her weapon in her hand is the pot. But Ganga also has many, many confluences. So she starts with the Saraswati River. And if you remember, we talked about the Saraswati River. What you see now of the Saraswati River is a very, very small trickling remnant of the original river. And as she starts out, she comes to the holy temple of Badrinath. And this temple has a unique feature. In the back of the temple, there is the Ganga flowing in the form of Alaknanda. And there is a hot spring of water. And all the pilgrims who have walked all the way, all those 200 miles, because pilgrims walk all the way to the source of the Ganga, come to this hot spring in this Badrinath temple, and they are totally rejuvenated. And then she meets the Dholi Ganga at Vishnu Prayag. Prayag is where, when two rivers meet, the confluence of where they meet is called Prayag. The numbers you see in the brackets are the elevation, the altitude of the points from which the river flows. And here you see Dholi Ganga and at Vishnu Prayag. So this is one river that you saw on the map, and this is the other river which meets at Vishnu Prayag. And Prayag, wherever you hear the word Prayag, it means the confluence of two rivers. And here you can notice the two rivers are totally distinct. One is bringing down silt and the other is flowing pure and pristine. Then we come to the next confluence, which is the Nanda Prayag. Here the Mandakini river meets another tributary and it flows down. Then we come to the Karna Prayag, where the Alaknanda river meets the Pindar river. And here you can see Alaknanda and Pindar meeting. And this is Alaknanda meets Pindar river here in Karna Prayag. And each one of these confluence points is a holy town where the people meet and pay respects to the river. Then we come to the confluence of the Rudra Prayag. And here Alaknanda meets Mandakini at Rudra Prayag. Mandakini was the river that way back caused extreme devastation in the region, where when it overflowed and its banks burst, villages were just swept away in matter of minutes. People did not even have the time to realize what was happening. That is the speed with which Mandakini flowed down when she meets Alaknanda. And then finally at Deva Prayag. Deva Prayag is the confluence of the gods, where Bhagirathi river meets Alaknanda river and moves forward. After Deva Prayag, henceforth, she is called Ma Ganga, the Ganga river, the mother. And here is Bhagirathi coming in from the west. And here is Alaknanda coming in from the east. And this is the point of confluence. And it is interesting to see how the silt-laden Alaknanda and the crystal clear waters of the Bhagirathi meet at this confluence. And it is amazing, if you stand there, you ever go to the spot and stand there, you would be amazed at the two colors of the waters that just don't seem to blend or merge, but they meet in a confluence. On the Bhagirathi river, there are 18 dams planned, in operation and yet to be built. And the Tehri Dam, which was built on, is one of the tallest dams in India. It is the 5th tallest dam in the world. A controversial subject. The rivers are being dammed and a lot of ecological fallout is happening because of the damming. And we've recently had earthquakes. And this is an area which is geologically very, very young. The mountains are very fragile. This is an area which is prone, the whole of this district, prone to a lot of landslides. And so damming the river, only time will tell where we go. So moving from the Gangotri at the foot of the glacier of the Katling Glacier in the Garhwal district, emerging from the Gaumukh River, flowing for 205 kilometers, meeting her tributaries at the 5 Prayags. Alaknanda River at an elevation of 475 meters in the town of Devaprayag flows as the Ganga into the holy town of Rishikesh. This is the Gomukh which you saw in the earlier video, from where the river emerges from the mountain. So as she flows into the holy town of Rishikesh, this is the ritual that is performed every day at sundown and at sunrise, the Arati at the river. And it is not just the priests and the ordained people who perform this Arati in Rishikesh at Triveni Ghat. It is also ordinary people. Everyone, without an exception, has the privilege of performing Arati and taking a dip in the Ganga. And then she moves further south into the spectacular town of Haridwar. Haridwar means the gateway of the gods. Hari is God and Dwar is gateway. This is the town which is considered where the gods enter the physical world here. Haridwar is the place where thousands bathe in her holy waters every day, 365 days of the year. It's a never-ending stream of people going to Haridwar just to take a dip in the water. And I should tell you, the water here flows really, really fast. It's flowing at a speed of 40 kilometers per hour. And there are chains and there are people who guide you and do not allow you to go beyond a point. And when the first snowfall comes and the river comes in full speed, there are days when people are asked not to go and take a dip in the river because it is so unsafe and they could be washed away. After Haridwar, she reaches Allahabad, Prayagraj, which is now called Prayagraj, for her final confluence in Prayagraj. Prayag is the confluence, and Triveni Sangam. Sangam means the meeting of any two beings is called a Sangam, is where she meets Yamuna and the underground river Saraswati. So although you only see two rivers meeting, the third river is underground and joins her here. At this confluence, the Yamuna brings in more water into this river than the Ganga does. And you can clearly again see that confluence point where the two rivers and the two waters are so different. And then at the Triveni point of confluence is where hundreds of people perform ceremony every day for the salvation of their departed ancestors and also for the salvation of their own souls. And then the greatest, grandest, and largest spiritual event ever seen on this planet, anywhere in the world, happens every 12 years, and it is called the Kumbha Mela. And it happens once in 144 years, which happened in 2013, and that was the Kumbha Mela. This is a cycle of 12 years which follows the astronomical precision of the earth in various points, and when the earth reaches that certain point every 12 years, there is a confluence of the planetary bodies, then Kumbh is performed. And this is usually performed in the months of January and February. And the 144th year Kumbh was considered a gift to all those who are alive at this time in humanity's history, to be a party to this major event. And this is considered the Mahakumbh. It lasts for 55 days and it was attended by 100 million pilgrims, making it the largest temporary gathering of people in the world at that time. You want to know what crowds look like? This is what the crowds look like every day at the Mahakumbh. And on Sunday, 10th February 2013, which was considered the most auspicious day in 144 years, 30 million people descended to Allahabad to bathe at the confluence of the Yamuna and the Ganga river. This is what it looks like close up. But this is not just a religious festival or a spiritual festival. This is also the time when cultures come together, cross-pollinate, meet each other, and you will find totally different cultures coming on the stage, learning and sharing their various art forms. And this is also the time when all people come forward. There are, so many of these pilgrims who come up are not rich, but they come because of their faith and their belief. And they are fed by pilgrims, and even the poor are fed. And it is amazing to watch batch after batch after batch. It's an ongoing food distribution. One group comes in, distributes food, people eat, get up, and the next group comes in, cooks and distributes food. It is literally the coming together of humanity for humanity. And now a temporary city that's almost as large or larger than Athens has been set up, and it is called Kumbha Nagari. It has its own governor, it has its own administration, and it has its own infrastructure. And the 2013 Kumbh, which saw 100 million people come in and on 55 days, was an education for the rest of the world in planning such an event. And this is an aerial view of the temporary town that was set up in 2013. And I am told that there are experts, town planners from Harvard and universities from all over the world who are coming on a regular, ongoing basis to find out how administration is done, how planning is done. And the beautiful thing is, not a single incident during these 55 days in this mass of humanity was reported. Not a single theft, not a single case of molestation, not a single case of a person being harmed, no stampedes. And when millions of people converge to the river with the purest of pure intentions of salvation and peace, one would expect the river to be polluted. So many people taking a dip, of course the river is going to be polluted. But do you know what? 4 universities, a university from Canada, Harvard, and 2 other universities from the East, sent their scientific teams to come and pick up samples. I was very fortunate. By sheer serendipity, I was there on the last day of the Kumbh in 2013. And I picked up a couple of bottles of water too, trying to see as to, okay, with 30 million people, 100 million people having bathed in this river every day, can you imagine what would happen if it was a swimming pool? So just to see what happened. And you know what they found? That there was magic in her water. Structured water, vibrating with the divine cosmic code, energized by pleasure, by prayer and the intention. Not an ounce, not a milligram, not a molecule of pollution was found in her. That is the secret, the magic, the mystery of the Ganga. And having traveled down the holy cities of Rishikesh and Haridwar, converged with the true rivers in Prayagraj, she continues further downstream to the holy city of Banaras or Varanasi. And then she moves further down south into the state of Bengal, where she is now called the Hooghly. And it is here that the sacred river merges with the sea. And it is here on this island of Ganga Sagar that you can see here that she finally reaches with the sage Bhagirathi and flows over the ashes of his ancestors, relieving them from their sins and allowing them to ascend to the other realms. And this is again a most important ritual at this place in Ganga Sagar, which happens every year on January 14th. That is the date when the sun moves from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere. what we call Dakshinayan to Uttarayan, where the sun migrates across the horizon. It is also considered the day when Ganga descended down on earth. And that is why it is termed holy. And that is why people take a dip in the river on that day. So she is not just one river, and neither are any of the rivers of the world one single river. They are river systems, and they nourish the lives and the hearts of all the people where they flow. Not only this river, every river nourishes the lives and the hearts of the people.
Each time I come for these episodes, it takes me deeper into really a state of revelation. And there's usually some particular piece that stands out. And today, and I love how giving a visibility of the river systems, not just speaking about the river, but talking about the river systems as a whole living system that enables all beings to live and to thrive and to flourish. But today it was really interesting when you took that, when they did that test on the purity of the water from the river. And that's incredible, which I thought was so powerful, because what you were saying and what was being said was the power of prayer, the power of intention, purifying the water. And we know that, with Dr. Emoto and the work that's been done, and people are beginning to wake up to that as something in which the Native Americans and other indigenous people have known forever. It's just part of that ritual standing there. And I think this is, to me, a deep piece to take home, is that this is where, we like to have, where there are tests done and all these things, but the truth of the matter is that this is what we're learning as a collective, that our collective intentioning, our collective consciousness does change the frequency of the land and the water. And something to take home for everyone. And I've been really realizing this being here in Maine on the Pajibscot, when you were talking about the river delta where the Kennebec River meets the Androscoggin, that the land masses that are touching and have been involved in a lot of conflict or massacres, that this is the power of the ceremonies and the rituals that we can be doing on the land and on the water, that even just our little voice by our own river makes a difference. And so that was just something, I know that was long, and I appreciate being able to say this, but I feel like this is the power of our loving consciousness, of our loving intent. So thank you, Malini, for really inspiring this. And I know some people are really beginning to work on and think about how to bring their stories together. So thank you.
Come and connect with us and bring the story. Because storytelling is where the love affair begins, with stories.